Hey everybody, welcome back. I have a tutorial for you. You get two this week. This one is to walk you through your first minor project. And your first minor project is your Wordmark. Your Wordmark will become part of your first major project, which is your resume. So after you watch this tutorial, you will watch the next tutorial, which is me, again, walking you through how to do your homework, which is using InDesign. I have to get you familiar with using the software, and I, as an added benefit, have found a way to get you to start thinking about doing some research about what it is you want to portray about yourself, what it is you want to communicate to your potential employer or your potential client about yourself so that you can effectively communicate visually. And after you watch this lecture, you will have to do, well, this tutorial, you will watch the next tutorial, which will get you through your homework. Again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to send me an email at elkellum@olemiss.edu. And I hope this all makes sense to you, and I can't wait to see what you all end up designing. Minor Project 1, the Wordmark. What is a wordmark? Wordmarks are logos made up of words. The brand's name is represented by typography without including any symbols or pictures, icons, anything else. Wordmarks can be classified according to their category or style. So what does that mean, category or style? When we talk about type, we talk about type classifications, and those are categories of type. And each classification has a personality. The two main classifications, now there are many, but the two main ones fall into one of these two camps, and that is sans serif or a serif typeface. A serif typeface are those letters that have those kind of brackets at the end. And these are word marks that are using a serif typeface. Now, serif typefaces have a certain personality, and especially when you start looking at the companies that use them for their word marks, they have a certain formality and a certain sense of style or tradition, luxury perhaps, that sort of thing. So if you are going for something more in that realm, you might want to think about doing a word mark with a serif typeface. Now, sans serif, as you can see by this letter, there are no brackets. There are just clean endings. And that is because sans or sans means without in French. So here are some word marks that use a sans serif typeface. Clean, sharp edges. Now these tend to portray something that's a little bit more modern, clean, contemporary. They can certainly have a sense of style and luxury about them as well, but they are just a little less in the traditional, been around for a long time sort of feel. There are other categories of types, such as scripts with sort of a handwritten quality to them, sort of a signature sort of thing, like these word marks, which are in sort of the handwritten script category. So they all have a very distinctive personality, because just like everybody's handwriting is different, that portrays a different sense of who these people are or who these businesses represent. These are also scripts, but again, they're not the handwritten variety, and they are all very different. Some of them are a little more formal, some of them are a little more evoke sort of an era or a certain quality. And you can get luxury with a script. You can have a very elegant script, just as you can have very less formal, more approachable sort of script. The Ole Miss script would definitely fall into this category. All right, when we actually get into creating the word mark, we are going to use Adobe Illustrator. So I will give you a tutorial on that when we get to that point. We're not there yet. Just know that when we actually create these word marks, we will be creating them in Illustrator. Now here are some examples of some word marks that some of my students have done in the past. So when you do a word mark for yourself, you can use your full name, first and last, and it might be 2 different typefaces, or it might be 1 typeface in different sizes or different shades of gray. Your word mark could also be your initials. This is some of the, like the PB is something of a ligature, like we talked about. And your word mark can also be a combination of both. Say you do an initial, and then you create a word mark that also incorporates your first and last name. Now, you don't have to do a combination. You could just do your name, but the name on the top is not tracked or kerned or anything. It is just typed out. The one on the bottom is the same name, but they added tracking to it. So it has a little bit more space between the letters, and therefore it has just a little bit more style to it. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And if you're a very basic, simple person, you don't have to create a complex, complicated word mark. You should think about who you are and what you want to reflect. All right, so when we get to the point where we are creating our resume, we are going to be using Adobe InDesign. That is the software where we will create your actual resume, and we will place the image of your word mark on that resume. So this is the basic rules of how things are going to go. These are the things you have to keep in mind. And the first and foremost one is this. For this class, you have to keep this whole thing in black and white or grayscale. You cannot use colors on this project. No colors. And here is why. If you're working on a logo, whether it's for yourself or somebody else, if it works in black and white or gray, it will work in any color. So we have to get it right. First of all, we're not worried about color. We are worried about the typeface and the shapes of the letter forms. We are not worried about anything else. You can only use 2 typefaces in the entire document, and that includes what you use for your word mark. So if you use 2 typefaces, say a script and a sans serif, to put together your word mark, you only can use a script, that same script and that same sans serif in your resume. So here are some examples of student resumes where they use their word mark. This one they did a T and a D put together, and it's very clean and contemporary and almost futuristic. With the typeface that they chose, they also use that same sans serif for their name, and if you look on the left-hand side of the resume, you can see the different categories: education, experience, achievements. Those different headers are using the same typeface. He's just doing them in all caps. But if you look on the right-hand side, you'll notice that he's using a second typeface, which is a serif typeface, which is a much better choice for that amount of information. So 2 typefaces. Here's another one. So you will notice her word mark, the K and the S that's in the upper left-hand corner, she combined those 2 letters and she used a serif typeface. You can see the brackets on the K and the S. But everything else on that resume is a sans serif, no serifs, and she used the same typeface for everything else on the page. Typefaces are made up of fonts, so she used different fonts within that same typeface family. So some of it is bold, some of it is regular, and she also changed the point size depending on how important or less important the information was. This one is one typeface throughout. You don't have to use two typefaces if you don't want to. If you just want to do one, that's absolutely fine. You can use it for your Wordmark and for your entire resume. No problem. This is another example of one typeface for the Wordmark, and it's the same typeface throughout the rest of the resume. This one, she used what's known as a slab typeface. It's a serif typeface for her name and some of the bigger items, the headers like volunteer, skills, education. But the smaller type is a sans serif. Two typefaces. And the last one here, she used one typeface for her Wordmark, and then she used a different sans serif typeface for the rest of her resume. Okay, simple and effective. No more than two typefaces. It has to be black, white, or shades of gray. And here is your homework. So the next video you watch is a tutorial of me walking you through your homework. So I don't expect you to look at this and just go, oh, I know what to do. You won't know what to do unless you watch the next video. So I am going to walk you through working in InDesign. We are going to create a document. We are going to place an image on that document. We are going to create a text box. Then we are going to copy and paste some information from a Word document into that InDesign text box. So that Word document is in Box. I have on Box a folder, and it's called Shared Assets. And for every project, some more than others, I will put things in there for you to help yourself to, or they might be something you need to have to do your homework. And that is the case now. You will get an invitation in your email saying, oh, Ms. Kellum has invited you to this folder in Box. That just means I'm giving you access to it. All right. So you will download that Word document onto your computer. You can either answer the questions in that Word document, or you can copy and paste the questions from the Word document into InDesign and answer them there. That is up to you. When we are done with the InDesign document, we are going to save it. We're going to package it, and we will then compress it, and then we will upload it to your homework folder in Box. And I will walk you through how to do all of this. Now, I know this stuff sounds completely foreign to you, and it is because you haven't ever done it before. I don't expect you to know how to do this. That's why you're in this class, so I can teach you how to do these things. All right? So once you understand how to do this, you will be doing these steps on pretty much every major project that you do. You will have to create something, save it, you will have to package it, compress it, and upload it to Box. Because in the real world, you are not always in a place where your client is, and you have to be able to send your files not only hard copy, which is to say printed out, but also electronically. And especially these days, everything is electronic. So that is part of what you are going to be learning in this class. And as awkward and scary as it might be the first couple of times you do it, it is not hard. It's just a matter of getting familiar with it. And by the end of this semester, you'll be able to do it with your eyes closed and both hands tied behind your back, because you'll be doing it so often. You'll be like, oh, no big deal. Package and upload. Ta-da. All right. So after this one, I want you to download the document that is in your box homework folder onto your computer and take a look at that, and then watch the next tutorial, and we will go from there.